Hi, my name is Stephanie and welcome to Blossom Study. I did triple science. I predicted 2 9s and an 8, a 9 in physics, a 9 in chemistry and an 8 in biology. Unfortunately, I did not sit the exam due to current circumstances, but I do feel like these are the grades I would get if I did sit the exam. So let's start off the video. Practice questions. Practice questions are so important, especially in a subject like science, where you need to use a very specific structure to answer the questions and a very specific language as well to answer these questions. They really expect you to use that same structure, a different structure, depending on whether you do 2-mark question, 4-mark question, 6-mark question, and also using the very important keywords that they're expecting. It's so easy for you to answer a question in science if you have knowledge, of course, but then not use the keywords they're expecting, not use a structure that they want that will make it more easy for the examiner to examine you, of course, and for you to get those marks that you so deserve. So only by doing practice questions, you have a first-hand experience of by getting either wrong or right of how the mark scheme looks like, what you are expected to answer the question with, what your answers are expected to look like. So that's why I really think practice questions are important. And of course, practice. It is very good for you to practice because practice is the only way you can get better, which is the truth of it. So continue those practice questions. The next thing is understanding the question. Understanding the question. What do I mean by understanding the question? Well, here's what I mean. I mean that you need to understand the topics you do in science, everything you do. You need to understand it, not at the surface level where you're memorizing it. You can recall stuff depending on what question it is. If they give you a certain question, you can answer that question. But what if they give you something completely different? So many times I've done mocks and I've been talking to them and they've been like to me, Stephanie, that question, we never learned that in class. I've never seen a question like that. What was I supposed to write? And I'm looking at them like, what? That question is just so simple. The difference between me and that person is that they've only done the surface level. They've only memorized answers. They can recall some words, but it's not to the point that if you give them a new context, a new style of question, the AQA or other examples like go in sometimes, they cannot bring that knowledge that they've learned and put it in that question and answer it smoothly and to a very good level of detail. So you need to understand topics to the point where no matter what context you have, no matter what question AQA give you, you can transfer your knowledge into that question, because at the end of the day, they can only ask you the topics that you learn or the topics you should have learned. So you need to trust in yourself and believe in yourself that you know the answer to these questions. They can only ask you what you should have learned. And if you've learned what you need to learn, and if you've understood what you've learned, you should have no problem. You should be able to transfer all your knowledge into any type of question. So that is why it's very important to understand the question. If your teacher explains something to you and you don't really understand it to a good enough level of detail, and you can tell this by doing practice questions, then put your hand up, ask her why is this way? What is making that behave like that? And that's going to really help you. The syllabus has got to be your go-to. You got to know the syllabus like the back of your hand. There's never been something as important as a syllabus. It is everything. And I mean everything that could ever come up in your exam. Every topic, every practical is there for you, written in black and white. So go to your exam board's website, search up AQA, Edexcel, syllabus for biology, chemistry, physics, and read it, revise it, look at it, and think, oh, have I learnt this tick? Have I not learned this cross? Let me go back in to my textbook. Let me redo this. Oh, my teacher hasn't taught me that yet. Oh, maybe she forgot. Let me go and learn it in advance. Let me go look at that in deeper knowledge. I don't think I know it to enough detail. And you're able to consolidate your learning. You're able to look back at what you've learned, what you haven't learned, what you need to learn in more detail. And if I'm giving you everything that they could ever ask you on an exam paper, you need to take that and you need to run with it, because that is everything. That is basically your exam paper. You look at that and you revise it. If you're finding the AQA syllabus or whatever exam board syllabus very hard to read, I would personally recommend the Primrose Kitten syllabus. For science, she has everything in very easy to digest questions, rather than like the broad topics AQA give you or whatever exam board you use. She has things like, do you know where this is? Tick. 2 months, and in 2 months' time, it also has the same format. Do you still know what this is? Cross. Do I still know what this is 4 months' time? Yes, I do, because I've looked back and I've seen that I don't know it. Come back, I've checked it. I can look back at the things I don't know and refresh myself on them, learn them before the exam. The right textbook. For those of you who don't have a lot of cash on you, or your parents aren't working, or whatever situation you are, it is very important to not buy all the textbooks you can get your hands on, but buying the right textbooks that you need. So I'm going to share with you the textbooks that I use. Combined Science, I would recommend this textbook right here. I don't know if you can see it, but this is Combined Science CGP book. This CGP book is good. So I look for the CGP books. Why I think this is a good book, and I use it even though I do triple science. So you can tell that it's good. I mean, I do triple science, not combined science. And this is the book that I take with me everywhere. Look at the state of this book. Like, the cover's fallen off because I take it with me literally everywhere. If you're looking through my bag, this is the book you're going to see every day of the week. Every day of the week. So look, this is the condition it is in. So, this book, the reason why I think it's good, because it has got paragraphs after paragraph after paragraph of detail, just of the topic. Is allowing you to understand what you need to pass the exam, what you need to go further in the exam. Because with this book, you can build your understanding. Unlike most books where it has just basic bullet points, this book has got a very in-depth range of text. It's just a very brilliant book. But I will say, as a disclaimer, this book doesn't have as many practice questions, which I think you need to have a balance of both worlds, and this book kind of lacks that. Though, when I want to understand a topic, and let's say I looked at YouTuber, and I've not really gotten the nuance of this topic, or I've been to my teacher and I've learnt the lesson, and I didn't ask any questions. So I don't understand any better than I did when I was in the lesson. So it's very important to understand, but it's also very important to be able to question yourself. And what I would say is get this book. Get some practice questions online. Ask your teacher for some practice questions if she has any. Some teachers are using Exam Pro. Go get it from there. Or whatever avenue you need to do. Find those practice questions. There's so many online. I wouldn't even worry about it. But this book is really all you need for textbooks. And I don't mean workbooks, but textbooks. This is a very brilliant book. For triple science, I have this book. I don't know if you can see it from here, but this is the Collins GCSE revision book. It is revision and practice all in one. I will say this book is good for revision, considering that you've learned everything and you're revising over it. Great. It has practice questions after practice questions, mixed style exam questions, a whole practice exam paper at the back, and review questions. As I said, this book is just amazing when it comes to practice questions. I will say, if you're just solely doing revision, then this is not very good for building understanding. It has very bullet point structure to it, so there's only a limit to how much information you can get from a bullet point, you know what I mean? So in order to build understanding, this is not the book for that. But if you're looking for practice questions, then here you are. If you're looking for understanding, I would suggest getting this alongside with the combined science book. If you're looking for understanding as well, or watching a YouTuber go over or into depth with this, there's plenty of science YouTubers out there, especially for physics. There are some really good ones. So I will say that for understanding, this is not the book, but for practice questions, beautiful. So that's it for the right textbook. Workbooks. For workbooks are like your textbook practice questions, I guess. That's one way to say it. This is the Collins one. My teacher asked me to get this book. I'll be honest, I haven't used this book as much as I should have. But I will say that for what I've seen, it has been pretty good. Obviously, I didn't do the exams, so after a while I just stopped. But this is pretty good. Collins for workbooks. I will say it's not necessary to get workbooks, but it will help you with those practice questions that you need. It will really help you with that. So this is one of them. Other alternatives to workbooks. Ask your school. Your school must have some workbooks somewhere. If they don't, I don't know what's going on with your school, but ask your teacher, ask anybody for workbooks, ask the head of department, and maybe you can find a workbook there for free that you can use in school, or maybe ask them to bring it home with you. Next thing I would say, for an alternative, is to ask them for, again, if they don't have a workbook, a photocopied version, or if they can't photocopy the whole book for you, like my school did. Look how much I've used it, guys. If they can't photocopy the whole book for you, then you can get just a page, the question that you need, by topic, or whatever you need. Ask them to photocopy it for you. Ask somebody else for their workbook. Ask them to photocopy their book. It's all about communication with other people too. For me, I could ask people in sixth form to help me with this if they had any spare books left over. So here you go. And the other alternative is go on the internet, search them. So many people do this kind of stuff. They have the practice questions for you, the workbooks, photocopied workbook for you if you don't want to buy one. So yeah, there are so many alternatives to getting workbooks, to getting those practice questions. You guys have no excuses to get those 9s, those 8s. Flashcards can be so helpful, especially when you use this in conjunction with the textbook. So how I would recommend to write flashcards: go get your textbook, read it through. Once you, let's say, using the combined science one for your understanding, you're reading it through, you've understood it. You don't want to forget what you've understood. You write a flashcard. Maybe you've understood about graphite, so you write describe graphite on one side. Then you write the key concepts, summarized into small bullet point forms. So now, I use these like they're questions. These are the proper questions. I go get a piece of paper. I write how to describe graphite. I write it in complete detail every single time. I'm very exhaustive when it comes to my flashcards. Not on the flashcard itself, but when I'm answering my flashcard questions. The flashcards themselves shouldn't be exhaustive, but your answers to them should be when you're writing them on a separate piece of paper. So then I check if I had the key points. I tick it off and I'm good to go. If I haven't got the key points, I usually put a tick next to it, an X next to it, and usually I'm looking for 3 in a row, or if I had 2 ticks and an X, I look back at it next week, not in a few days, just that kind of stuff. Another way to write flashcards is just writing small bits of information that you need. I would say this isn't the worst way to write them, but if you just need a quick reminder and it's on the tip of your tongue, just have it there. Because I knew the Reactivity C series, but I kept on forgetting it though I knew it. I always forgot my mnemonics, I forgot everything, so I would just write it down here like this, where I just write them exhaustively like this. That's one way of flashcards, one section of flashcards. You can have them like this, where it's pre-made once. For example, on one of them it says, how is the Plum-Woodin model disproved? And on the back it says, alpha particle scattering experiment, blah 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 blah. So you get the idea. The problem is that you can't really get the things that you personally don't know, you personally are strong at, will not be reflected in these flashcards. Whereas if you make them yourself, you can put your weaknesses in, you can account for your strengths, you can have them really personalized. With pre-made ones, you don't have that experience, but I will say they do get the job done, and that's really all you need to get the job done. But if you're looking for those high grades, I would suggest using this in conjunction with your own flashcard. Having a way of being able to, timetable your revision. I'm going to do it here, then. So for example, if I'm starting off my flashcards, that was my session 1. Looking at my textbook, session 2, whatever I'm doing, whatever order I'm doing it, I can have it for each day. Or if you're only going to do one type of revision each day, then go for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. You can design these yourself, or I can make them if you would prefer that. I can make them and give them to you for like 50p. But these are really good. Having little charts that you can put in your folder or on your wardrobe, your wall, so you know what you're going to do and you have a plan, because it's very important to plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail, as my mother says. So that is very important. So thank you for staying with me to the end of this video. Please like and subscribe for more. I'll be doing more videos on different subjects, so keep a lookout for me and hope you do well in your GCSEs.